Thank you. You can hear us. I want to say hi to everyone, and I hope we're all safe. I hope we're all looking after ourselves and eating healthy, resting, meditating, praying, if that's your thing, and just really looking after your mind, because it's so easy to kind of like just lose it at this time, because we are social creatures, as we were talking with Jen. And you can't feel a bit up and down, and it's good to reach out to people if you can, and just be able to kind of like socialize, because that shouldn't really change. So before we start, if you could please share this and send in your questions, anything regarding business and leadership and artificial intelligence, and Jen will be able to answer it. Just don't ask about 5G, please. We wouldn't be talking about that today. It's one of those topics we're not going to talk about today. We'll just talk about AI. So I am going to ask Jen to speak a little bit about herself, share about herself. She's very accomplished, and we are very, very honored to be able to grab her and have time with her at this time, and for her to be able to share her expertise. She's going to talk to us about leadership, AI. She has been in this for so many years, so she is definitely qualified. So I'll just let her talk a bit about herself before we begin. On to you, Jen.
First of all, oh, thank you. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. I love all of the community work that you do for empowering and enabling women. So I just wanted to say I find you an inspiration, and I just want to thank you for having me along, and keep doing what you do. You keep us all going. You do. I watch your posts on Facebook and everything, so thank you. So I just wanted to say that. So about me, well, I don't know what to say really. I'm a single mother, so I know what it's like to work hard all the time, and to have lots of commitments on you. And my background is, as Harriet said, is artificial intelligence and psychology. I did psychology first, and then I moved into AI because I felt that I felt myself, if I did psychology, I would take everyone's problems home with me. And I thought, I'm not sure I can carry all of that. Some people can just switch off from other people's problems, but my heart is not made like that. So I decided to go into AI because I found it interesting. And I thought, well, I can really help people with artificial intelligence and technology. And meanwhile, keep something of my sanity. So that's why I do what I do, really. So artificial intelligence is a technology. Normally, people, when they think of artificial intelligence or AI, they often think of robots and Terminator, Skynet, iRobot, or maybe even, if you're old enough, Metal Mickey, which used to be in the television years ago. If you're under 40, you won't know what I'm. If you're under 40, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But so people get a bit scared by it. But actually, artificial intelligence is just programming or developing computers that are inspired by human thinking. It does not act as a replacement for humans. It's not that. And actually, the truth is, you probably are carrying around with you some artificial intelligence every single day and not realizing it, because your phone usually has some AI in it. So if you use Google Maps, for example, or you use Xbox, or you use a search engine, so even if you use Google or Microsoft Bing, and you type something in, that result being returned to you is inspired by the way that humans think. Now, the way that I look at it is you get different types of artificial intelligence. So you get a very general artificial intelligence, and that's more about trying to build robots and human-like creatures. And that's not where the industry is going for many businesses. From the business point of view, what we want to do is use human-like thinking in computers to try and do something really well. So if you use Alexa, for example, or you have used Google on your phone, what you do is you say to Alexa, Alexa, read the news, or Alexa, tell me the weather.
Exactly.
And in business, we can use human-inspired thinking to try to help us to automate processes and make things faster. So things like chatbots and websites. So these are very easy to create. You can even, I use Zoho in my website, and it gives me a little chatbot, and it's very cool. So you can actually use these tools off the shelf to give you a bit of a hand. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So please don't be scared of AI. It's just about having really clever software which has been made easier to use all the time, and you're doing it right now anytime you open up Google Maps or Bing, Xbox. The spam in your email is being managed by AI. You've probably got a spam folder.
Yeah.
So you're already using it. And all I think we want to do in this session is really try and encourage entrepreneurs and potential leaders, people who have got ambition, to see AI as another tool that you can use in order to help you to be successful in your business.
Exactly. So what are the ways that entrepreneurs can use AI to boost their businesses? I mean, I think this is something very important to discuss at this point, because many people are going to be at home, they can't trade. So how can they actually use AI and use the internet to kind of like boost what they're doing other than the usual social media?
Yes, I think a good way to do that is to be very customer focused and think about the customer first. So the way that you can do that is by improving customer service in some way. If you have a website, there's quite simple ways you can do that. So you could build a little chatbot. You could do that. You can actually, there's plenty of companies that will sell you chatbots. And the idea of the chatbot is if you are not around, it can sometimes try and answer the question for you, or it can send you an email to say, someone's on your website, can you go and answer their questions? So the chatbot saves you from sitting on your website the whole time, worrying if someone is trying to contact you that you might lose a sale, for example, because of it. But the chatbot is just a little bit software that you can buy. You can go and Google around for those. You install them on your website, and it's usually easier than you think. I use WordPress for my website. So if you follow the instructions, then you can implement them quite quickly. For me, all I did was copy the code, put the code where it told me to put it, and that was it. It just saved it. And I thought, wow, I've got my chatbot. And I didn't do anything. I just copied and pasted. And now I've got
the
chatbots on my
advantage
website.
of knowing what you're doing, really, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And it's not that hard to set it up. I am not a web developer at all. So I like things I can drag and drop and just pop into slots. I'm more interested in choosing the colours and the look and feel than actually programming the back end. But for me, the chatbot is just one small example that an entrepreneur can use artificial intelligence to boost their business because it improves customer service. And I think nowadays, especially for younger people, they're accustomed to just messaging and texting and going onto a website and texting. So that's where I think AI can help, because if you're very customer focused and you listen to what the customer wants, that's where your success lies.
And I think at this time, most of the people will want to kind of like retain the customers they've got. So it's the best way to kind of like engage if you've got a website. So one of the things that I wanted to speak to you about was data, because I find small businesses and small companies don't really know how to use data if they have data. That is. So if you could just tell us the importance of having data as an entrepreneur and as a business.
Yes, I think data is absolutely crucial to running your business.
Yeah.
I have a confession to make. I never used to be very good at having a customer relationship management system
Okay.
that basically tracked my sales leads and nudged me to do follow-ups, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
I did some I gave myself a very hard talking to, because I realised that I was not keeping a good grip on sales leads as they came in,
Yeah.
and I was not following up very well. So there are plenty of free customer relationship management systems. There's no excuse not to have one. There are plenty of ways that you can learn. They've usually got videos. There are different ones. So HubSpot is one that's free.
Yeah.
There's also Insightly, which is also free. They're very good for small micro businesses. I use one called Zoho,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one I've set on. It has a free level, and actually ended up buying the whole suite. It cost me £40 a month,
Okay.
which maybe sounds a lot, but it stores all of my files for me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm using it to store my son's files, even though he's off school at the moment, obviously because of the virus. So he
Yeah.
sends me the files. I can store them in Zoho and send them to the teacher. And it means that I have some tracking on my website. So if someone visits my website, it can tell me in the CRM system some
Mm-hmm.
details about them, not necessarily their name, but what pages they're visiting.
Yeah.
And that's actually really important, because I need to know, what do people come to my website for?
Yes.
What they're looking for? And the data helps you to know that, because I believe that there's two different perspectives. There's the customer perspective of you,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got your goals and what you think, but sometimes customers can really surprise you.
Yeah.
Um, so one of my blog posts from a few years ago is one of my most read posts ever,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a few years old. And I think, well, why is that? But it helps me to see that I need to write more content about that one. So you're right, data is absolutely crucial. It helps you to track your customers, your leads.
Mm-hmm.
Please go and set up customer relationship management if you don't have one. And I know it seems like extra hard work, but there's a saying by Bill Gates, who's the Microsoft founder, and he
Mm-hmm.
says sometimes you're rushing around so fast. You're dropping around $50 bills as you go. And I think that's quite an intuitive thing to say, because it means that you're running around so much, you're missing out on the opportunities because you're
Yes.
not grabbing hold of them. You haven't bothered
Yeah.
to look at the data or to even record the data. So if you're not doing it, you are dropping those $50 bills. And in today's climate, you need to follow up with everyone so well. And
Yeah.
then all you need to do is I add in tasks. So I follow up in 3 days. And I think it does make a difference. Again, coming back to the customer point of view, because the customer feels that they are important to you. And again, that importance and focus on customer success really helps drive your success.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that I discovered with running Her Story Matters is when I actually started, I had this idea of what I was going to do. And one of the ways that we kind of like gauged what kind of things that people would be interested in is we decided to run a 5-week campaign. And with that 5-week campaign, we were able to collect the data and see what countries were interested in what. And it was very interesting in helping us to develop our content. And as you said, to develop the vision. So you have to incorporate your customer within the vision. And it's one of the things that people don't actually do. They just have this idea and go and start off a business. And then you're thinking, why is my business not growing? And this is one of the ways, one of the most practical ways that you can grow your business is by looking at what are people interested in with regards to what you offer, not what anyone else offers, because some people go and look at what other people are offering, and that's really not going to work for you because people come to you for specific reasons, right? So I think with regards to data, I've seen so many organizations and companies and entrepreneurs, they don't really have that And even when you talk about the customers, that's how you retain your customers, really, because then it will prompt you that you have to follow up with a customer, or you haven't actually emailed someone, or, you know, there's a sales here that was made, and it's something that you can refill, and you kind of like have to send that message back. So I think it would be time consuming to set it up, but in the long run, it does actually help your business, and it helps to grow your business. And this would be the best time to do that if you haven't done that, because there's nothing else really you can do with regards to business.
I agree totally. That's so important. That's such good advice,
Yeah.
because sometimes those customers turn into repeat customers, and I actually landed a contract this morning from a repeat customer.
Yeah.
And they were one of the first customers that I tried the CRM system on.
Yeah.
So it's paid for itself and then done it again. So
exactly. It doesn't sound that like so much money when you start getting the contracts coming in and the projects, which I think is really good. It's good to think long term and just not like I mean, growing a business is a skill on its own.
Yes, absolutely.
So how can data improve business processes and translate to effectiveness and growth? Well, I think we've started talking about that, regards to how to use it. And like, I think when there are times when we use certain words, and if people are not familiar with that, they wouldn't really know what we're talking about. So when we talk about data, what we're talking about is, if you have a customer who bought probably an item from you, and they could come back and buy that item again. So the data is the details of that customer, what they bought and when they bought it, and the feedback from the product as well. So you know if it's something they would want to use again or not. So it's just these small things that you put in, and especially feedback is so important. And that's also AI, but we don't really think about that. Like you said, we think about the robots, and we think about all these major things, and, you know, CCTV in London and stuff like that. That's all we think about. But it's how we simplify it to how it can work for our business. Like what we're using right now is AI as well. So we're using an app that connects to something else, and, you know, translates it to what you can see on the screen. So
that's right. And to follow on from that point, I think you're right. The data can improve business processes. For me, it really changed things really drastically. I don't know if you get this, but I sometimes get time wasters who pretend they're interested in a service and they're not. And I like to believe the best in people. And my tendency is to think, oh, there's something wrong with me, rather than actually they're being a bit naughty. Or they're taking advantage. So with one person, I found that I could send an email from the CRM system, and it does this really nice thing where it tracks if they've opened it or not.
Yes.
And I found that he just wasn't opening it for about a week. And I thought, he's just not interested. So this is why I know it's £40 a month. You can use a free version. Zoho has a free version. But at least, because he kept coming back and he'd say, well, I need you to rewrite the proposal. It's too long. And I thought, you haven't opened it. I know you've not opened it. And he was just fobbing me off. So eventually I went back and said, look, I've gone through the history. We've been communicating for 3 months. And this is kind of going nowhere. And it sounds odd, but sometimes firing a potential customer, it saves your business time, and it does improve the process, because it allows me to focus on people who are actually not time wasters. And it's not that I had thought to myself, that guy's a time waster the minute I met him. It was the whole process. I thought, you're not reading the emails, and I would not have been able to track that in Gmail or Outlook. But the CRM system just saves me time. Oh, I don't know if you have this, but sometimes I just cannot find emails when I'm looking for them.
Oh my goodness, yes, I do that.
I do that all the time. At least I can log in, and it's next to, I go to the contact, and then it gives me every single email they've ever sent me. It saves me so much time.
It sounds like there's so many different processes that you can actually get to put in place to kind of like save time.
Yes.
Which is very important. You get to know who's interested in your business or not. And I think one of the things you can actually do as well is to have like a questionnaire, like with what people are interested in, right? They fill in the form and then you kind of like get back to them with regards to what they've asked. And it also helps you to know what is urgent and what isn't, because if it's urgent, then people, you know, there is that content within the messages, and it really helps you because there's always so many time wasters, and sometimes it's not like they are out to be time wasters. I think sometimes they're just not sure what they want to buy. They're not sure what they want to do, and you don't really want to spend an hour or 2 hours trying to figure out what they want and try and convince them to buy it. You want them to come to you when they know what they want, right? So I think those processes also help you weed out people who waste your time, weed out who's not really interested, and it also does help to grow your business, because then you can have that laser focus on who's interested and who isn't. And I think you do run a data thing, isn't it? You do run it ever so often, right?
Yes, I do. I was going to invite you to that actually. On Monday, I'm doing this thing called Make Your Data Work Monday. Now, I know that sounds a bit of a mouthful, but I thought it's all M's, Make Your Data Work Monday. And I'm just trying out different times. I ran one last Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. And can you believe people got out of bed to tell me about their data problems? I know, but I think for some people, they just struggle.
Yes.
And if you are at home and you don't have anyone around you, you can't really sort of go up to a colleague and say, oh, sorry, I'm really struggling with this Excel workbook, or I want to do this and I don't know how to put the data together. Yeah. So I'm running another one next Monday at lunchtime. And then I'm running one on the 13th of April at 6 o'clock. And I thought, part of it's social, because I find it hard just not talking to people. We chatted about this beforehand, and I thought sometimes if you just offer to help people, they come to you, and I feel I've helped them and contributed in some way. And it sounds maybe a bit strange, but I think it can solve your own sort of maybe loneliness, even, because being on our own at this difficult time can be difficult for people, and it's like you were saying, it's ups and downs.
Yes. I think it when you have things like that, what I'm going to do is I'll put the link of
thank you.
the link from your page and put it on my page as well, so that people will be able to see what it is and be able to come along and kind of like watch it. Because if you're not really doing anything, I mean, you might as well have your data sorted, isn't it? Know how to deal with stuff. So I'm just going to move on to the next question, which is data security. Let's talk about data security, because we've seen in the past where security has been compromised, where companies have had files accessed and important information. So how can businesses and entrepreneurs protect their data?
So I think it's important to add in multi-factor authentication. So on your phone, for example, so anytime I log into Google or Dropbox, I pick up a little code and I type that in. Now, I know it sounds like an extra step, but it's very important to secure the data. Now, if your laptop gets stolen or something, or your phone, and people have not just got the device, they've got your details as well. That could be your bank details. It could be one of my friends, actually, she lost every single one of her daughter's baby photographs because her laptop broke and she only had them in the laptop. So the first thing to do to secure the data is look for cloud services such as Google or Dropbox. They do have free versions. Flickr is a good one for photographs, because you don't want to lose things like, baby photograph. It was just, she was distraught and there was no way you could get them back. It's terrible. But there's plenty of companies. Google do something called Google Authenticator. It's free. And what you do is with Dropbox or Office 365, you can set up a code and it works through QR. So you just point the camera at it and it goes doop, and it gives you, it syncs. Don't ask me how it works, it's magic, but it will it will help you secure your systems. It means you have to have the phone with you at all times, but that's okay. You can also set up backup, so if you don't have your phone, it can send you an email. So it's a very simple way of making life more difficult for someone who wants to get into your data. Now, I also use I can send you links for these. I also use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. What that does is it gives if say you're in a cafe, which we're not at the moment, but say you were using public Wi-Fi, even in the local library, the minute you're on public Wi-Fi, you're sharing that connection with other people. And some of those could be a bad actor. They could be sniffing the data as it goes up and down. And that's a real problem. So I use a virtual private network. There's plenty of these. One is called Tunnel Bear, which is quite cute. And I use one called OpenVPN, but there's plenty. I can send you some links if you like. But the idea is I pay about £30 a year. Some of them are free, but they're a bit slower. I just paid for one because I thought if I lose my data, I lose my business. I cannot go back to customers and say I've been hacked and that they have lost, someone's got their data. That keeps me awake at night, because it would be awful to go back and say, oh, you know what, we've lost your detailed financial transactions or something. Would be terrible. I can't do that. So although it sounds like an investment of £30, because that's not very cheap, I see it as an investment, as being an essential part of safeguarding my business. That's how I see it.
Okay, it's very interesting. Sorry, that you spoke about VPN, because I do have VPN, and I was only using it to access. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm saying this. I was using it to access Hulu. So I love watching Hulu.
Yes.
And you can't actually watch it here in London, but I was using it to watch Hulu. So it's very interesting. I didn't know you could actually use that. That's very interesting.
Yes.
I see there's a question there. Other than the following of our searches, are there any other agenda that you can think of that artificial intelligence is being used for that you know? Is there other agendas that the government are hiding? I believe there is a lot that we are not being told. Can AI be reliable? Because surely it is based on what we teach it. What happens when information is true and it is being withheld from us? The AI is surely going to follow instructions and eventually learn. What happens when AI learns we are telling lies? Will it turn against us? Will it be like Cellnet? Oh my goodness, that's like a mouthful. So we'll probably have to answer the first question, right?
Yes, I'll do it in sequence.
Okay, so other than the following of our searches, are there any other agenda that you can think of that AI is being used for that you know?
Not that I know about. I do read a lot of conspiracy theories, but I actually think AI is like any other tool that can be used against people. Because as we know, our governments don't tell us everything. I'm sure they don't. With the virus recently, I was quite amazed how in the UK, how they suddenly pivoted. Monday, we were all told to wash our hands and sing happy birthday at the same time. Then by Wednesday, they're building hospitals. So
exactly.
Yes.
So what is it? Can we wash our hands and be done with? Can we just get disinfectant? And I think it's really bad because everyone went and just panicked and bought so much stuff, and especially tissue paper. I just still don't get that. Why would you leave the multivitamins and get the toilet paper? Still, I'm shocked. But I think I can understand why Nigel is asking that question, because it seems like there's so much we are not being told. And this can be worrying, especially with AI. I mean, they can access so much information from us. And then the other question is there any agendas that the government are hiding that you know of?
Not that I know of, although sometimes I think we credit the governments around the world with more intelligence than they actually have. Watching them in operation, sometimes I think, I could do better myself. So if they have an agenda that they are hiding, I'm not sure they could organise themselves very well. A bit of me does think. There's a saying that says that if you want to damage computers or destroy computers, what you need to do is get them to form a committee or a management team, and that will really do them in. And that's probably true. So I don't know. So answer sort of both questions together. I don't know if for definite if there's any agendas that governments are hiding. I think the government is probably playing catch up against some of the big tech firms in terms of the data that they have. If you're interested in exploring that further, there is a television series which brings up the same issues. It's called Black Mirror. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's very good. And it talks about a sort of dystopian near future world where technology is and the big tech firms are really controlling everything. So is there a lot that we're being told, not being told? Probably, but I think I'm not sure that.
So I think it would be. I think the appropriate question would be, and I think we kind of like know this, but we don't. Obviously, with the private companies, they have tech that we don't know about, and it's quite advanced, right? So I suppose I can see where his question is coming from. What happens when AI learns? So we give them instructions, and eventually they learn. So is there a point where they will learn what we are doing? And I don't know, because obviously everything kind of like is when we create something for one thing, it kind of like evolves, and then we discover, oh my goodness, it's also doing this, right? It can do this and it can do that. I suppose it would be something like, if you have AI in your house, is it possible that something can go wrong and it shuts down your house if your house is, you know, controlled by stuff like that? So I can see why people do get concerned, but I don't know if it's something that you're aware of, or you can talk a bit more about.
I think there's really been a very interesting case in the past few years around Facebook and the company Cambridge Analytica. It was like Facebook had given access to developers who then went and did some things that they weren't. It wasn't as if they had been allowed to do it, but they weren't not allowed to do it, if you see what I mean. So they just went ahead and did it. So some of these games were accessing your data, but you'd consented to that, but they're also accessing your friends' data as well, and their friends, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested, if you have Netflix, there's a brilliant documentary on that, and it's called The Great Hack, and it talks about Facebook and Cambridge Analytica and how Cambridge Analytica was using the data in order to try and manipulate voting patterns. And it was actually very eye-opening and really quite scary in terms of the actual how far they got with it. So it makes some quite very interesting allegations. So to come back to your question, can it learn? Yes, it can. And I think this is where the ethics piece comes in, and where ethics is crucial. Because I believe that if technology is in the hands of men of a certain age, that's not representative of everyone. So where is women's voices in that, for example? People from different backgrounds. And I feel that the ethics part is being missed out, and it's like the cart before the horse. You know, the horse has escaped the barn and we're trying to catch it now. I think companies need to think more about ethics. I think they're starting to, because I think they understand it will start to lose some customers. An example of that was, I don't know if you saw this, Harriet, it was in the news recently. One of the airlines built an algorithm that was trying to work out who was most likely to pay to sit together on a plane.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not good, because that algorithm went from idea to design to development to test to deployment. And nobody along the way said, hang on a minute, maybe that's not an ethical thing to do. Because I don't know about you, but I would pay extra, and I have paid extra on a plane to sit next to my family members.
Yeah.
So does that mean I was targeted because I would do that? It just seems very unfair, especially if it's your once a year family holiday that you've paid so much for, then you're asked to pay even more. It just seems very callous to me. And I think there's probably more examples like that where people just haven't been caught yet. I mean, I don't know of it. I don't tend to get, when I'm building or getting involved in AI systems, I don't touch anything that I feel uncomfortable with. And I do tend to raise my voice and say, you know what, this is not something that I want to risk my reputation on. I haven't done it yet, but I have walked away from projects where I've thought, you know what, that's I'm not comfortable with that. And I think that's the right thing to do, because I want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah. So the other question is, will it turn against us? Does AI have the ability to turn against us?
Not at the moment. You've probably read the Isaac Asimov story.
It'd be like Cellnet. So I don't know about
Skynet.
Cellnet.
Yes, the story is Skynet. Skynet is in Terminator, you know, the Terminator films.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Skynet is the name of the program that basically takes over all the defense systems and destroys humans. Will it ever happen? Probably not, but I think we are more likely to make things happen because we do stupid things. So one of the rockets, one of the Apollo rockets, blew up. Nobody was hurt, fortunately, but it blew up because of a programming error, and it was found during testing. Now, the thing with that is that the rocket itself didn't decide to blow up. It was just sheer human stupidity. So although AI can do clever things, I don't know if it would ever take over the world or anything like that. Then a bit of me thinks, if we are assuming that artificial intelligence is a bit like God in a box, you know, that we're just going to touch it like an oracle and it's going to give us the answers. If we're going to do that and get AI to decide things for us, we have to be very thoughtful about the ethics involved in doing that and shaping that box and seeing what it looks like. So I think we have to keep asking this question about the ethics, and we have to do it every single day, and we have to keep asking the question, because if we don't, we'll see things at Cambridge Analytica happening again.
Definitely. Wow. So the other question I wanted to ask, based on what I've read from him, and probably this is obvious, but I wouldn't know because I don't really know that much about AI. Is it possible for private companies to have intelligence that the government does not have access to?
Yes, I would believe that's true. I think that I see companies deciding, there's often legal disputes between companies and the government. Now, there's two sides to that. One is surveillance. Why does the government want the data?
Yeah.
And then the other side is, why does the big tech want that data? Well, obviously they're going to make money out of it somehow, money out of you, because you are the product.
Yes.
Really. So I am reading a good book at the moment. It's called Tools and Weapons by a gentleman called Brad Smith, who works for Microsoft. If you're interested if you're a reader, I recommend you read it, because he talks about the sort of compromise that Microsoft came to with the government. And the reason they came to this compromise was because of 9/11. It turned out that some of the bombers had been using Hotmail accounts.
Wow.
And they were tracking, or the government wanted to track the whereabouts of other people that they thought were involved, and they wanted to understand where these bombers came from.
Yeah.
So what they actually wanted was the locations that these Hotmail accounts had been accessed from. And they were being accessed from internet cafes, pretty much, all around the place. But they had wanted access to the email as part of that process. So the government in the US basically, they invoked a rule that they had, which Microsoft have agreed to, that if something like happens, like 9/11, the government goes and gets a legal warrant, and the judge says, right, so why do you want that data? And then it gets signed off if it's a legal requirement which has been met. So there is a precedence for that. So in that example, they did get access to the data, and that would be in the national interest to do so. Okay. And I agree with that. So I don't know if that helps, but is there some, to answer the question about the technology firms, then yes, I believe so.
Wow. That's it's horrific. I'm not sure who are having the data. Is it the government or the private companies? Just not sure about that. So he has another question, which is, we talked about AI as in a microchip into our bodies. Is this likely to happen anytime soon?
I don't know if it will happen anytime soon. I'm personally not that comfortable with it. So cybernetics is the science where we, augment ourselves in some way. I think some people are already doing that, playing around with chips.
I think it is in Sweden or Switzerland. They've already got that. Is it Finland? One of those countries have that already.
I can't remember the young man's name, but he's a medical student and he keeps making things and injecting himself. It sounds a bit mad to me. But then I'm not that comfortable with it. I don't suppose many people are. But what we do is almost as a compromise. Because if you have like a smartphone, you're already wearing something that's giving off huge amounts of data about you. Your heart rate. Are you sleeping? Are you eating? What you're doing? You're checking your email. So these things they don't have to be inside your body to give out huge amounts of data about you. And I think that's a compromise because it's cheaper and less risky to get people to wear smartphones and pendants. And it's interesting because in China at the moment, they've got a virus tracking app. And I read today that they are thinking of using that here to indicate who is healthy, who has the virus and who hasn't. So if you have a green code in your phone, you'll be allowed to go out and go to work. And if you don't have a code on your phone, you are a red or an amber, then you need to stay inside. So that poses huge questions for the ethics and the privacy. Personally, if I have a green code, I want to be able to go out and mix with other people who have green codes. But I do see the point that I wouldn't like it if I had a red code and I had to stay inside. Yeah. So that's something to watch out for. So we don't need microchips. We have smartphones that give out huge amounts of data, and it looks like our phone will do the same thing if we do go ahead with this virus tracking app.
I didn't know it actually takes your blood pressure.
I don't know if the smart watches will take your blood pressure, but they can take your heartbeat if you have like a Fitbit.
Yeah.
I don't have a smartphone actually. But if you have like an Apple Watch, I believe it's got programs you can install on it that will take your sleep rates and heart rates. It can track all sorts of things about you.
So what we are using for convenience really and truly can be used against us. That's what it really is about.
Yes, that's right. And no one ever reads terms and conditions for anything. Yeah. We just agree. We need to read them. Yeah. They need to be simplified. The Apple terms and conditions used to be about 45 pages. Who's going to sit and read that?
And the one thing I don't like about that is using your face as recognition, because now they've got so much information. You don't, it's really scary for a company to have all of that content on me.
That's true. And you see this in the film Minority Report. I don't know if you've seen that film with Tom Cruise. There's some facial recognition in that. And the adverts displayed to you are the ones that are, and they recognise your face and they know your profile, they know who you are, and they display the adverts dependent on you. On billboards as you walk around. So again, it's just, and I think actually Uber will end up doing the same thing. Uber do this thing where they're investing money in driverless cars. They've not had much success because they keep crashing. But the way that I see the world going is that we will be driving around or driven around in little pods, little driverless cars. And these driverless cars will have screens in them that will be blasting you with adverts and Netflix and, whatever television program. So I think the self-learning car things are interesting because I think that will be an opportunity to use data, which is incredibly valuable, to display adverts to people. So I think that's where that's going.
But I think it's also very scary that if I search something on Google, when I go to my Facebook, it's on my timeline.
Yes, that's right.
So they're already using that. They're using my search engine to do that. So what you said about a VPN, would that be able to cut that out? If I used VPN, would I be able to block that? Or how can you actually block that from happening?
I think probably you need to clear out your cookies, because what Google is doing, it's probably sticking a cookie in your browser, and then next time go to Facebook, Facebook's picking up all the cookies and saying, right, so what am I going to show you now? So I clear out the cookies. You can do it automatically in your browser, so every time you close the browser, there's a setting in the settings somewhere where it just clears it.
Okay.
And that's what I do. I don't think a VPN would stop that, but a VPN will make your internet traffic safer. Because sometimes they can cut out these adverts and trackers from getting to you anyway. Because sometimes you might see a bit of a blank screen in the page, and it's because the VPN has blocked something.
That's useful to know. So we have another question from Nigel. You seem to be so concerned about AI. He wanted a private session with you. So are you worried at all with the way AI is heading?
I think, yes, I am, and I think it's good to be worried. I think we need to be ethical and mindful. I think that organisations like Microsoft, for example, are setting up ethics boards. I do see Microsoft Azure, for example, they're implementing ethics toolkits. So when you deploy a chatbot, for example, it's a bit like a wizard. You have to go through various steps. And the idea is that it's trying to help people be more mindful as they go along. So say if you use the example of a chatbot, with a chatbot you can say something like, this, you are interacting with something that's not human, because you're supposed to set up an expectation that they're dealing with an AI or a piece of technology. And I think we see more of these ethics toolkits. So if you search around, Microsoft have got an AI ethics toolkit, so have IBM. So I think everyone should be worried about it, and everyone needs to keep asking the questions about the ethics of this. We know that there's no one defined ethics for everything, we know that, but that's why diversity in technology is so important. And it's one reason I love what you're doing, because I think that these sort of initiatives really help us to get diverse voices in technology. So otherwise it's going to be in the hands of men in their 40s, and I just think that's just not representative of everyone. So take the example of the airline again. If you and I had been in that team, we would have said, hang on a minute, you are not doing that. That is not right. We would have been able to look at it from the lens as women, as family members, to see actually, we are thinking about the social aspects of this, not just whether something's technically brilliant. There's what is the impact. And that's why I think diversity in technology is so important. I really believe that. It's the future, and we cannot have it owned by one group of people only.
That's true. So I suppose one of the things that we'll ask is, we won't go so in depth with it, and that's to do with the 5G.
Yes.
When 5G is introduced, what would be more of things we would be concerned about with regards to AI? So we're thinking of, is it our security, or is it our information being kept properly? Is it our health? What should we look into? I know that I have a friend of mine who was studying technology, and she did a thesis on 5G. This is 3 years ago.
Oh, well.
And her thesis at that time, 3 years ago, I was thinking, oh my goodness, who's going to read all of this? And I wish I really had.
Yes.
But she actually did so much research with regards to the dangers of 5G. And I suppose people are very concerned about it. So what is it that you can tell us about it, and how can we make it work for us and not against us?
I think the biggest thing is about misinformation. I am most worried about 5G being used for making applications like deep fakes easier to create. Now, deepfake technology, as you may have seen some of it in LinkedIn videos and things, it's where it looks like one person, but it's actually not them. It's a computer-generated image of somebody speaking and talking. There's been some really very good ones recently of Barack Obama saying he supports a football team, which he doesn't apparently. It was not him. But at the very first glance, it looks like it was him. It was very close to his voice, his mannerisms, and it just looked like him. So deepfake technology, I think, is particularly scary because it's about misinformation. I read about a case recently where someone used an AI-generated voice to pretend to be a company CEO, and he tricked the accountant to transfer money to a bank account, so that it was used for theft. So I am worried about deepfake technology. It tends to be used mainly against women, and over 98% of deepfakes are used to display non-consensual pornographic images of women who have not consented to have the images used in that way. I think that's heartbreaking, and I think it's heartbreaking particularly for younger women, teenagers, because if you can imagine you're at school and one of your classmates does that and puts your head in some porn actress, this terrifies me. I am more frightened for younger women than anyone else right now. So I think 5G is And it's just like any technology. I think it brings out the worst in people, and so hopefully the best, hopefully we can use in the fight against the virus. But I do worry that like AI will be the next thing. It was being used. It was an Indian journalist who wrote for the New York Times, and she questions the government in India. And she ended up in one of these awful deepfake videos, which was seen by millions of people and used to discredit her, so she has to live in the US now. You can look at, I've forgotten her name, which is terrible, but her story is appalling. And it was just frightening to me the way that technology could be used as a weapon against women who are doing the right thing. You know, she was right to raise the questions of her government. And to be discredited in such a way brought terrible shame in her. And I think that's just an awful thing to do.
Okay, so can you, I think because of your accent, well, Jen is Scottish, right? So
yes, I am.
Scots have got a very special way of speaking. So what Chimika is asking is the spelling for defeat. I don't know if you can see the screen.
Yeah, I don't know what defeat means.
So she wants the spelling for it.
For spelling for what? Sorry.
You're talking about defeat, what they were using to generate images.
Oh, deep fake. Sorry. Can I put something in the chat? I don't know if I can. Deep fake. DEEPFAKE. Deep fake. Okay. Yeah. So I'll see. I can't put anything in the text window. Sorry. Yeah, I'm really sorry. We'll have to wrap up soon. If that's okay.
Yeah. I realize we've actually pulled so much from you. So Chimika, I'm going to make sure that I get the information and the links that Jen has mentioned online, because I know the way we pronounce words, and the people in the States, they can't really understand all the spellings as well. So we'll be able to put that on there. We'll be able to put that on the screen as well. So to wrap up, do you want to tell us about the data workshop, and then we'll close up?
Yes, so you're welcome to join me at 12:30 on Monday next week. I'll make sure Harriet gets the links for that. I'm sorry I have to nip off. I've actually got another call. I've really enjoyed talking to you as well, and I feel really bad I have to shoot off. But it's been so good to chat with you. But we'll catch up afterwards if that's okay. Definitely. So deepfake is spelled DEEP, F for Foxtrot, A for Alpha, K for Kilo, E for Echo. Okay. Fake. So hopefully that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
That's all right.
I'll be able to share that information as well.
Good. Thank you. I'll send you an email later. I'm sorry I have to shoot off. But thank you very much again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hi guys. Thank you for joining me today. She had to rush off, but as we can see, there's a lot of questions with regards to technology and the information that is out there, how we can protect ourselves and what we can use safely. So I'm going to make sure that I have her again. I will try and get her to be on the show again. Yes, Nigel, I'll see if I can get her again very soon. And then what's going to happen is I'll probably get your questions beforehand as well. And you can also ask questions during that time. We were only meant to have half an hour today, but she stayed on a bit longer. So I'll try and make time with her again so we can have more of these conversations, because I see it's very necessary for all of us, whether you're an entrepreneur or just an individual who's concerned with security. I think we need to know so much of this stuff, and we need someone who can tell us about it. So with Jen, she works for Microsoft, and she's one of the regional directors. So she knows her stuff, and she has her own company as well, which means she's privy to all of this information, and she will be able to share with us what she can share with us. So I want to thank all of you for tuning in. This was part of our event, Women in Leadership Conference, which was due to take place May 28th, but we've cancelled the physical event itself. We're trying to see with Jen if we can do something online that all of you will be able to access to, which is, I think, is going to be a lot more fun. She's going to be one of the speakers, and she's going to have a slot where she'll talk more about technology and leadership and everything else that she has prepared. So I hope you can join us then. And thank you so much for joining. Please share this video to people who have businesses, people who are thinking of businesses, and anyone else, because I think the information she shared was so key, especially with regards to the software that can actually change someone's picture to put someone else's picture, because it could happen to all of us. And also it can be used to place someone in a crime scene. That's kind of like what I was thinking when she was talking. So I think it's important for us to be aware and to have this information. And I just want to thank all of you for joining. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day. And we'll catch each other soon. Take care. Bye.